Right, now we are going to talk about the fourth cranial nerve, right? That is about what? Trochlear nerve. Fourth cranial nerve, or we can call it trochlear nerve, right? So we will talk about that what is, from where this nerve originate, right? And what is the course of its nerve and how eventually it reaches where? Superior oblique muscle, right? And if it dysfunction, what happen, right? So first of all, we start with the midbrain because this nerve take origin from the midbrain. So we will talk about its nucleus first of all, the nucleus of the fourth cranial nerve. Now about the nucleus. Basically, nucleus of the fourth cranial nerve is present in the midbrain in lower part. You know, midbrain has on its back, it has superior colliculus, yes, and it has inferior colliculus, right? Of course, this is cerebral hemisphere, no fun in telling. Now, fourth nerve nucleus is present at the level of inferior colliculus. This is present at the level of inferior colliculus, and here I would love to mention that there is a group of nuclei of the cranial nerve which are in one vertical line, right? These are basically somatomotor fibers. This is general somatic efferent fibers which originate from this nucleus. General somatic efferent fibers which are present in cranial nerves, they eventually innervate the skeletal muscles or voluntary muscles. Now, there is a column of the nuclei of the cranial nerve, right, which give origin to general somatic efferent fibers of this vertical column from rostral to the caudal end, right? The highest point is nucleus which is present at the level of superior colliculus in the midbrain, and this is for third cranial nerve. This is for third cranial nerve. And then in the same column below at inferior colliculus, there is which nerve? Fourth cranial nerve. And then if you vertically come down, then in the, what is this? Medulla oblongata. Within medulla oblongata, there is another, yes, third, fourth. But before we go to medulla, pons is there. In the pons, what is this? Sixth cranial nerve nucleus. Sixth cranial nerve nucleus. And in the medulla oblongata, there is a vertically long nucleus, but belong to the same similar function and same column, and this is for the 12th cranial nerve, right? Now what we really see here, that what I'm trying to tell you, that general somatic efferent, right, fibers are present in third cranial nerve, fourth cranial nerve, sixth cranial nerve and 12th cranial nerve. Or we can say these fibers are present in oculomotor nerve, trochlear nerve, abducent nerve and hypoglossal nerve. Right? Now, actually all these are continuation of, these pieces of gray matter are continuation of anterior gray horn. In the spinal cord, you know, there is anterior gray horn which which has the cell bodies which give origin to the axons or fibers which are going to the skeletal muscles. Right? But when the same anterior gray horn column, when it enters into brainstem, it is discontinuous, but it exists as a vertical column, and this column is called, yes, this whole column is called that this is GSE column, right? General somatic efferent fibers, right? Now, I will go into detail of fourth cranial nerve. We already know that third cranial nerve supply most of the extraocular muscle. Fourth cranial nerve supply superior oblique muscle, sixth cranial nerve supplies lateral rectus muscle, and 12th cranial nerve supply most of the muscles related with the tongue, right? Lingual muscles, most of them. There is one exception, we'll discuss that later. So this is exact position of fourth cranial nerve nucleus. But let's go into more detail of this nucleus. If I make a section of the midbrain, at the level of inferior colliculus, then what we can really see there? This is midbrain, right? And now, in the midbrain, we are making a section at which level? Inferior colliculus. And here, there is, what is this structure here? Cerebral aqueduct. And around this cerebral aqueduct, what is here? Periaqueductal gray matter, which is also called central gray matter. Now, if this is the central gray matter, where is exactly fourth nerve nucleus located? Fourth nerve nucleus in the midbrain is present exactly here. What is this? Lateral side, right? So it is, you can say, it is very near to which position? Periaqueductal gray matter or central gray matter in midbrain. Now, from here, fourth nerve fiber course backward. Fourth nerve has three unique things which are different from rest of the cranial nerve. Number one, all cranial nerves emerge from front or the side of the brainstem, but fourth cranial nerve is the only cranial nerve which emerges from the back, right? This is first thing. Secondly, fourth cranial nerve is, as I will explain later, it has the minimum, it is having the least number of neurons as compared to other cranial nerves. And third thing, fourth cranial nerve supplies, because it goes backward, then it decussates here. Because it decussates or crosses here, so it goes to the contralateral superior oblique muscle. So what really happens? From these pieces of gray matter or fourth nerve nuclei, the fiber move backward. This is very unusual route. Normally, from all other cranial nerve, fibers move forward, but from fourth cranial nerve, fibers move backward, and they move backward, go around the, what is this? Central gray matter, and they're moving backward, and then they start going contralaterally, and then they emerge on contralateral side. They exit from the brainstem on the back of it on contralateral side, saying this is the right nucleus, and here it is, yes, left nucleus. Similarly, these fibers also move backward and they also emerge contralaterally. Is that right? Now, when these fibers emerge backward, right, they move around the midbrain, right? They curl around the midbrain, and then these fibers move anteriorly, right? Now they are going anteriorly. And now, in this diagram, what we have seen, position of the nucleus, and there's emphasis that these fibers go backward and they just decussate and exit out of the midbrain, right? And after exiting from the midbrain, right, they curl around the midbrain, or we can say, what is this? What is this structure? Cerebral peduncle. So they curl around the cerebral peduncle and they start moving forward and laterally. And as they're moving forward, then what happened? Here I want to show you something very important, that, yes, I will show you the arteries, right? First I will show you from the front. I will show the arteries from the front. Let's suppose this is the midbrain, right? And here it is pons, and here is medulla, right? Spinal cord. Now, you know there are vertebral arteries which approach here, and vertebral arteries come together and make which artery? Basilar artery, right? And basilar artery here divide into two parts, that is posterior cerebral arteries. What is this? Posterior cerebral arteries, and here it is cerebellum, and here basilar artery, before its terminal branches of posterior cerebral artery, it gives origin to which arteries? Yes, superior cerebellar artery. And this is posterior cerebral artery. This is posterior cerebral artery, this is superior cerebral artery. The point which I want to mention, that fourth nerve, yes, it passes below the posterior cerebral artery and above the superior cerebral, and it is moving anteriorly from here. This is fourth nerve, right? It will pass in between those two arteries, right? So here in this diagram, I want to show those arteries, right? And how the fourth nerve passes through that. Here I will show basilar artery, okay? This is the basilar artery, and here it is terminal branches. What are these? Posterior cerebral arteries, right? And here will be which arteries? Superior cerebellar arteries, right? Now I will show these arteries. I don't want you to get confused with the fourth nerve, so I'll make it like this, right? This is which artery? Again repeat please. Basilar, and here it is posterior cerebral artery, and here it is superior, yes, cerebral, and this is other side superior cerebral. Now we can see here, this is which nerve going? Fourth nerve. It will pass under the yes, it will pass below posterior cerebral, but it will pass above the cerebral. Here I will show that it will pass below, what is this? And here it will pass, yes, right? So this was a course up to now, that it moved fibers, take origin from the nuclei. Important thing, rather than moving anterolaterally or anteriorly, these fibers move backward and decussate and emerge on the opposite side, right? And on the back of the midbrain at inferior collicular, below the even inferior colliculus, here is let me tell you something interesting. Here is a band of white matter, and this is called, yes, who will tell me what is this band called? Superior medullary vellum, right? They emerge through the superior medullary vellum, and it has a collection of a ridge, white ridge here, which is called frenulum cerebelli. So if you want to be really very fussy, you can say that it goes on the back of the midbrain and it emerges out of the through superior medullary vellum on the sides of frenulum veli, right? You must be thinking, what is this white thing? Let me show you. Let's suppose this is midbrain. Here it is pons, medulla, and spinal cord. Here is cerebral liquiduct, and here is fourth ventricle, right? And behind, what is this structure? This is superior colliculus, this is inferior colliculus, and what is this big structure? Cerebellum, right? Here is at this level, here is, this is what? Superior medullary vellum, right? So around, through that it comes out. Now once it comes out, it will move forward, right? Pass between these two arteries, but here I would love to mention another nerve passes also between these two arteries, that is third cranial nerve, oculomotor nerve. Oculomotor nerve also that exists, okay? Let me put the arteries here. This is suppose lower artery. What is this? Tell me rapidly. What is this? Superior cerebral. And if I put it this, what is this? Yes. So what really happens, that here the third cranial nerve passes, and here it will go back and then come around. What is this? Fourth cranial nerve. So third and fourth both passes between these two arteries. The only difference is that third will emerge on the medial side, anteromedial side, and fourth will come from lateral side. Is that clear? Little lower level. Now once the fourth nerve come over here, from here it needs to move forward, and where it will reach, now I will show you that, because next is that it will enter into lateral wall of, it will reach lateral wall of cavernous sinus, right? I've made it in detail. Now I'll make it small, and I will show you eventually how it reaches to the orbit. I'm going to show you the structures from the side. Intracranial fossa, yes, here it is. Middle cranial fossa, and here it is. What is it? Foramen magnum, right? And here was your, what was here? Midbrain, and here was pons, and of course here is medulla and then spinal cord below, right? We have already discussed that fourth cranial nerve, right? I will make middle cranial fossa and anterior cranial fossa a little larger so that, okay. Now, we have already discussed. Now I'm going to show the nerve by green color, right? So this was fourth cranial nerve. It went backward contralaterally, emerged under it, and reached here. Yes. Any problem up to this? No. And it was passing here between the two arteries. Is that clear? Yes. Now, it's approaching, which is this area? Middle cranial fossa. And in the middle cranial fossa, here we have cavernous sinus, right? So I will make the cavernous sinus here, right? And now this is the lateral wall of cavernous sinus. This is the right sided structure, right? This is the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus. Actually, fourth cranial nerve, right, will reach the cavernous sinus, and it will be found in the lateral wall, right? And in the lateral wall of cavernous sinus, it will be traversing forward and eventually upward. Now here it is passing through the lateral wall. It is not passing through the cavity of, cavernous sinus, because later we will discuss there is another nerve, that is sixth cranial nerve, that passes through the cavity. I told you sixth nerve is for sex, and it has sex with the it has sex with the internal carotid artery. So it passes through the cavity of what? Cavernous sinus. But fourth is not that sexy. So it will pass through the wall of cavernous sinus. But here, what was the nerve here? Third cranial nerve. Now I would love to clear this concept also. I will make these arteries. This is which nerve? Fourth cranial nerve. Fourth cranial nerve, okay, third cranial nerve, yes, oculomotor. It all, now both of them are in the same column, but it moves forward and downward, passes again between the two arteries, and it also reaches where? Lateral wall of cavernous sinus. So third nerve and fourth nerve, both are present in lateral wall of cavernous sinus. But the difference is that as third nerve progresses forward, it goes little downward, right? So they crosses each other, and here third nerve divides into two divisions, right? But our fourth nerve, it has been in the lateral wall of cavernous sinus below the third nerve, right? But as it moves forward, eventually it crosses, right? Am I clear? So this is third nerve superior division, this is third nerve inferior division, but this is our fourth cranial nerve, right? Here, I also want to make one thing more clear, that what is this here? Okay, I will just make it more clear. Yes. Which ganglion? Trigeminal ganglion. Here it has which division? And here is maxillary, and here is mandibular. Now, what is this division now moving forward? Yes, ophthalmic division. And what is this division going? Maxillary division. So actually third cranial nerve, fourth cranial nerve, and ophthalmic division of trigeminal and maxillary division of trigeminal, all of them are passing through the lateral wall of cavernous sinus from top to down position. Is it clear? Okay. Okay, now we can say that fourth cranial nerve, when it was in the lateral wall, it is below the third nerve and above the ophthalmic division. Is that right? It is below third, this one, and above the ophthalmic division, this is our fourth. Now once it reaches here, from here it needs to enter into orbit. It needs to enter into orbit. So how it will enter into orbit? Through the superior orbital fissure. It will enter into orbit through superior orbital fissure. Now, superior orbital fissure, let me draw it here, right? Now it needs to enter there, superior orbital fissure. I'm going to draw, of course, right orbit, right? And this is, and here, this is your orbit. Now, this is superior orbital fissure. From inside, you know, there is a tendinous ring. There is a tendinous ring. Okay, let me make it a slightly different angle so that it becomes more clear. I will make the posterior wall of the orbit like that. This is the optic canal and this is what? Superior orbital fissure. And if this is the optic canal and medial part of superior orbital fissure, they are part of a ring. What is this ring called? Superior, this is called tendinous ring, right? Now, this is the outside the tendinous ring, this portion of superior orbital fissure. This portion is called lateral part of superior orbital fissure, right? Actually, fourth nerve is very important to remember. Fourth nerve will pass and emerge through this area. So it is outside the tendinous ring and it is emerging from the lateral part of superior orbital fissure. Is that right? Now, in superior orbital fissure, if I make arrangement of the nerves which are passing through that, this is tendinous ring. You should write here LFTs. LFT stand for what? Liver function test, right? This is lacrimal nerve, lateral most. Again, I will say, you just remember LFT. So, lacrimal nerve, then frontal nerve, and then trochlear nerve. It's so simple. So, basically, we can say trochlear nerve as it approaches, exit from lateral wall of cavernous sinus, it finds itself just behind the lateral part of superior orbital fissure, and there it enters into orbit. This nerve enters into orbit, right? Of course, after entering orbit, exactly what is its position? It is outside the ring and medial to the frontal nerve. Once it is there, now it has to approach what? Superior oblique. Now let me draw the superior oblique. If this is the eyeball here, let's suppose this is the eyeball. Now, superior oblique, this is suppose medial wall, right? Now, superior oblique takes origin from, yes, body of sphenoid from here, and then it is moving like that. This is the belly of the superior oblique muscle, right? And here, okay, under it, there is another muscle. What is this muscle? Levator palpebri superioris, which will elevate what? Upper eyelid. And then there is another muscle here. What is that? Yes, this is superior rectus. Okay, I will draw it a little more downward so there is enough space for these muscles.